So I suppose we might as well make a start. It's a couple of minutes past the hour. So thank you everyone who's joined. As I mentioned earlier on, this webinar has about 111 people, probably a little more, who have registered to attend. And it's down on what we normally have at our webinars. We normally have 300 to 400 people sign up or request the replay. And some of this, you could say is down to, webinar fatigue. It could be down to people are sick of me, which is probably more the truth than I'd like to admit. But thirdly, and I probably, this probably resonates more with me and my ego, is that the topic of talking about marketers, fund marketers, talking about integration generally means is that they're further down their journey than most other marketers. So on that basis, well done for attending this webinar. And what we are seeing is that there is only a small percentage of clients we speak to, prospects that we speak to, who are fund marketers, who are actually at that integration journey. So most people are at the CRM journey, they're at the content journey, they are at a journey of their distribution. It's only at probably 2 to 3 to 4 years of their journey of digitizing their sales process and their marketing process that they're looking at ways to do integrations. And the reason why integrations are so important, obviously, most people will say, and as I go through this webinar in the next 30, 35 minutes, it's about knowing, what one contact is doing with your funds, various digital touch points, whether that's the website, the investor portal, Zoom, BrightTALk, Asset TV, events you're running. But it's not just that, having that all in one place, but it's actually collating enough data points to actually help your sales team target the right people. So without further ado, let's get into the webinar. A little bit about Profundcom. We've been around for almost 20 years, and what our only goal is as a product is to help fund managers, asset managers, private markets, hedge funds identify new investments using digital marketing. We're very lucky. We've got a whole raft of customers, from boutique managers to names that you recognize. And we integrate with not only generic platforms like Salesforce and Dynamics, but also with industry niche products like Backstop, Dynamo, InvestCloud, the usual suspects. And we do that mainly because we add a huge amount of value to helping marketing teams assess the impact they're having on raising AUM, which is ultimately, the real challenge for marketing teams. As a marketer myself, in previous roles at hedge funds, we're always looking for more budget, we're looking to justify our existence, and we're looking for that pay rise. And it's very hard to justify a pay rise, right? Because that's ultimately what it's down to, if you can't, in a fund manager, demonstrate the impact you're having on raising AUM. So at the very, very core of what we do, and if you ask our users, and clients what they find us useful for, outside the operational efficiencies, outside the sales efficiencies, outside the marketing efficiencies and analytics, it's about demonstrating the impact marketing has. And, in my world, in 5 to 10 to 15 years, I hope that in managers will, fund managers or asset managers understand that marketing is not the top funnel for sales, is actually run side by side. So that's, that is, I hopefully, we get there at some point. So that's a little bit about Profundcom. And, the question again is, why does integration matter? And integration matters because, we're taught that, raising assets is about generating awareness, creating consideration, then people get to their decision, they then get to asset allocation, provide them service, and then, pending no disaster, they're loyal to your brand. This is a very, very common model that people use. The real challenge is, as the investor becomes digital, and as the investor journey becomes more digital, there are more digital touch points, which generally means that you've got to put together thought leadership, more website content, putting together more events, social media, press. So the marketer's job is now less about producing fact sheets, but is actually led and with more and more content and more distribution. So this is obviously the utopian view of what, you know, the C-suite sees as marketing. But in reality, what it actually turns out to be this. It's really difficult. It's because there's so many challenges operationally, tactically for a marketer. There's so many jobs to get done. We are under budget. We are under resourced. And it really is, you know, what they told me, how's it going? I mean, I love these memes, but that's pretty much it. There are lots of touch points, and it's even harder. So once you've got these touch points, to aggregate them so they make any sense. So integration matters because, okay, at one point it shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't even be doing integration if you're overstretched. But what it does allow you to do is it creates lots of data points. And the beauty of having lots of data points, as I'll come to further down this webinar, is it enables you to work out whom your salespeople need to target. So that's the first reason why integration matters. The second reason why integration matters, because it feeds automation. Now, obviously, as I said, marketing teams, unless you are, you know, working in the top, you know, 5%, will generally be, like I said, under resourced, under budget, overworked, and having to do less, having to do more with less. And this is really where automation comes in, because once you've built integration, it gives you enough data points to start building out meaningful automation. So whether they're drip campaigns, nurture campaigns, retargeting, calling campaigns, or, you know, more efficient content distribution, it all feeds into that. And this is one of those parts of integration / automation that needs very, very little input from the marketing team. It doesn't happen by magic, but just as, you know, it's a process. And once you've kind of got that process running, it needs very little maintenance. So that's the second reason why integration matters. The third reason why integration matters is it gives the sales team and the marketing team to have what's called, you know, the investor-centric view of a prospect or a client within the CRM. Because obviously a CRM traditionally has static data, which is name, address, which is generally gets out of date within a couple of years. And the second bit of data it has transactional information, which is, you know, meetings, calls, activities. What it doesn't have is this view of knowing their interests, what they consider success, and analysis based on real-time data, because there's been no way to feed this into the CRM, less take that information and make it meaningful. And that's what we're trying to do with our product. And again, why integration matters, because it pulls in all these data points. So what's the end game for marketing? The end game, as you'll see from this recording, is just to see from a single contact, what is their real-time activity? So what I'm showing you here is a contact, all the digital touch points that they've been through, and also the ability to categorize contacts within your CRM based on their engagement. And you'll be able to see here that this person has been on LinkedIn, they've been on Twitter, they have been on the website, which is coming up in orange, and that they've actually been on a Zoom call as well. So all these data points make the CRM come alive. And that is the kind of investor prospect centric view that, you know, we've been kind of spending the last 20 years, you know, delivering to asset managers, private banks, hedge funds, private markets, and the rest. And, you know, the question is, you know, why does this matter? Well, as I said, if all your marketing activity just stays within your email system, within Google Analytics, within, you know, your social media distribution platform, within your investor portal, and you've got to bring all that data together in one place, well, all of a sudden you're not a marketeer anymore. And once you know, you're almost an Excel maverick or a data scientist, if you know linear regression. But by the time you're doing that and you give it to your sales team, it's out of date and you haven't done your marketing job. So that's why that gets overlooked. And because that gets overlooked, every 7 years, people say, our CRM is rubbish. We're not getting any value out of it. Let's go get another one. And that is the cycle of CRMs, 7 years. Because it's, you know, it's that, and marriages are the same, actually. It's 7 years. 7 years is a crucial number in relationships where you've just about had enough. And you realize, you know, we've been through enough pain. Now let's go to something different. But the interesting thing is that the 7 year cycle is because ultimately it's the business or the person and the process that's the problem. So if you don't get the processes right, 7 years down the line, you know, you're looking for another CRM, maybe looking for another partner. So we're going to get through that today. So this is not about relationship advice, but I've been married for 28 years, and as they say, 2 of those happily. So let's move on. So the things we're going to cover today is Zoom integration, Zoom / Asset TV / any, you know, event platform you have. We're going to look at investor portal integration and why that's important, desktop integration and Outlook integration, and how that feeds into deep automation. So hopefully I haven't lost anybody yet. So let's get into it. So obviously we're all familiar with the world of Zoom, Cvent, ON24. You know, whilst we know we're all back in the office now, there is a default mode of running on Zoom or running on a platform. And this is really detailed engagement information because, you know, the fact that someone, you know, and I'm grateful to everyone, all 47 of us who are on this call right now, for being on this call right now, but it's a bit like, well, if that information is not tracked anywhere or not stored anywhere, how on earth can that, you know, be fed into the CRM? And that is like one of the best integrations is the fact that people are spending 45 minutes on a call, whether it's an investor call, whether it's an investor update, whether it's something just about, you know, about the fund itself or meet the manager. Having this information to hand is a very, very significant bit of information that needs to be captured. And having that integration to hand, as I kind of showed you in the previous slide, appearing in your CRM, in this case a Zoom call, is really important. It's a nugget of information that would give the salesperson or the IR team real understanding, real insight into the behaviors and depth of engagement of that investor or prospect. And why that's important for investors or the IR team is because if an investor is not engaging with you, it's worth a call. But if an investor is engaging, are they engaging with you on a fund that they're invested in, or are they engaging with a fund that they're not invested in? And then passing that to the sales team immediately kind of aligns the marketing team very much into the sales process. Just got a quick question that's come up. As a Zoom user, if we're moving to Zoom phone and have a Zoom webinar, yes, you are. And the reason for that, Chris, is because their APIs, whilst they're not asynchronous, there is a way to synchronize them. So that is possible to do. So yeah, so that is one level of the integration that's really useful. And why it's also useful is because, you know, while Zoom is cheap as chips, ON24, Cvent, BrightTALK, Asset TV, these are not cheap products. And it's almost, you know, and these products get dropped because the buyers or the marketing team tend not to see any ROI on these products. And it's not that these products don't give you ROI, it's not visible immediately. And having that engagement appear in your CRM, having that appear in your marketing automations, and then feeding leads to the sales team immediately makes it a no-brainer in the asset raising process. So it's almost in these companies' benefits when they're selling to fund managers to actually expose the fact that it kind of feeds into the sales process as opposed to a broadcast mechanism. They don't do that, but we do that for them. So that's why they love us. So that's kind of the Zoom integration. That's, and I say Zoom integration, I couldn't think of a better word, but just call it Zoom integration. I think it's Zoom, Google. It's actually quite interesting that Gwyneth Paltrow's company is called Goop, and Zoom and Google, and marketing experts say for web brands with anything that has an OO in it tends to outperform any other brand. And that's what Gwyneth Paltrow actually did when she went to her marketing team. So we kind of, Zoom is the word. So let's call it Zoom. So Zoom integration per se, having it just sitting in an Excel spreadsheet is actually, it's actually stupid. You've got to find a way of getting it into your CRM. So whether you use Excel uploads or whether you use our product, whatever you use, critically important. So that's kind of the Zoom integration. The next thing to look at is investor portals. Now, investor portals, again, is something where people, our clients, do not see any real ROI. They see it as, yeah, you know what, something we do for our clients to make their life easy. We love our clients, not really. We just really care about getting new investors in. And if you look at that, you know, whether you are a software company like us or whether, you know, you are an investment manager where I used to work, people care more about getting more AUM in because the rock stars of the business, salespeople, that's what, you know, they become rock stars for bringing investors in. Nobody really becomes a rock star for keeping investors in. And that is a battle, you know, that we are trying to help marketers win. And this goes back to how can you track, you know, which investors are engaging with your investor portal, how engaged are they with your investor portal? And then you can look at it two ways from there. You can build automations out that trigger if an investor has not logged in to your investor portal for the last period of time, or if they have, and if they have, are they looking at just their holding information, or are they looking at other information relating to other funds? So having that type of data available within the CRM is, again, incredibly powerful. And just like the screen before, it appears in a section within what we call the content, the client activity stream. So having that, again, helps managers to actually determine all the spend on distribution that, you know, we are having to have in this post-COVID world, where it's Zoom, whether it's investor portals, whether it's any kind of new digital transformation you're putting out there, is to actually measure how much ROI is that digital transformation bringing to the business. And having all these touch points out there and bringing them in, all these data points into the CRM, again, is just critical to see, you know, because what you don't want to go is you want to see the ROI. You don't want to be sitting here in 3 years' time, post-COVID, when it's just a distant memory, and saying, why are we doing Zoom again? Why are we investing in Investor Portal? Why have we spent all this money on Asset TV, ON24? And you won't be able to justify it in the marketing team because guess what? You can't measure the ROI. So that's kind of the first part of what I'm covering. The next part is one that completely gets missed out, which is desktop integration. And whilst most managers have, you know, content distribution on the website, social distribution, the most one-to-one communications, so as you go further down the marketing pipeline, so you've identified, you know, suspect, prospect, you know, opportunity, investor. When you're just in that prospect investor area, it's the communication moves from mass distribution to one-to-one distribution. And what is a complete clangor that's missed is the fact that that is not being tracked. The simplest thing in the world is not being tracked, which is when people are operating within their desktop, when they're operating with mobile devices, where is that one-to-one information being captured? Now, traditionally, it's sitting in people's send boxes, it's sitting on a mail archiving system somewhere. It may even be sitting in your CRM email archive, but it's not sitting as part of that calculation for who is engaged, who isn't engaged, how do we target people based on even their one-to-one engagement. And again, having desktop integration built into what you're doing is like the missing link. Because if at that point, because what traditionally happens is marketing activity is blasting stuff out and sales activity is one-to-one. So when a deal closes, it's almost impossible, if your one-to-ones aren't being tracked, to know the effect that marketing is having on the asset raising process. And bridging that gap, whether you do it, it's the simplest thing in the world, but it just gets missed out. And the reason is quite simple, because marketing is being pulled away in sending stuff out, and sales, so they're out, looking for the tiger, hunting the tiger in the jungle, and then telling the sales team, oh, there you go, the tiger's over there, go catch it. And in that time, marketing is going looking for other tigers. So they're not actually joining the dots, whether that closed or not. And I have not seen yet anybody, and we work with 219 odd users of our platform. In 20 years, I've seen every CRM under the sun. I've seen people who built their own systems and people that have bought in other systems. None of them have actually bridged that gap, and they've always found it incredibly complicated. But actually, it's pretty darn simple. So once you've done desktop integration, you've pretty much got a huge amount of data points now to really make yourself even more efficient as a marketer, and that is to do deep automations. And deep automations, whilst our product does it, other products are available. This is not about selling our product. This is really about kind of what automations our customers have found to really work. And these automations are things like, when somebody signs up to an event, building out a remail. So those of you who are attending this webinar, and the reason we get so many people coming to our webinars, obviously, is because I'm so amazing and the content is so beautiful and so well written and so well presented, is actually because we have a automation built into what we do that's in our product that allows you to see, has somebody opened the email? If they did, but didn't respond, send them a remail of a type. If they have opened the email, clicked on the registration, but did not register, another type of email goes out. And if they registered, another email goes out. And then after 30 days, if that behavior has not changed or has changed, we have another set of automations that go out. So that's quite a useful automation to have. Another automation that is very useful is where clients of ours, if contacts have been disengaged for say 6 months to 2 years, how do you re-engage them? What kind of re-engagement campaign can you build? And sometimes it's almost about drawing outside the lines. And what I mean by that is obviously growing up, when you're given a coloring book, you always draw outside the lines. And then somebody says, no, you need to draw inside the lines. And that becomes our mindset. But re-engaging is to how to think of different ways to re-engage with people who are not engaging with you. And that could be as complex or as simple as you want it to be. It just has to be different from what you're normally sending. And what we're finding with clients is that you've got the ability to actually get 7 to 10% re-engagement through a inactive campaign. So reaching out to your inactive audience. So those are potentially 7 to 10% of people who you're not going to be talking to that are suddenly engaging with you. The other thing to do is, and I did allude to this earlier on, is the ability to reach out to investors who are not engaging with you and building a deep touch campaign, whether that's calling, I don't know any other one to do, but yeah, call investors who are not engaging with you. And, again, whilst it's something that, you won't get patted on the back for, no CIO wants to see money going out of the door. So knowing which of your investors are not engaged with you is, again, a really, really powerful automation to just rebuild dialogue. and actually to see, you know, is there a risk of money going out of the door? Another, I mean, recent discovery about drip campaigns and nurture campaigns, which are slightly different, is when a liquid event occurs. So if there is a, you know, a high net worth has had some, you know, liquidation event, a liquid event, not liquidation, sorry, a liquid event. If cash has come in, if there's an inheritance, if there's something like that that's happening, is actually getting that data and feeding that into a drip campaign. And a drip campaign is nothing more than a campaign that sends out emails in a particular sequence. A nurture campaign sends email in a sequence, but based on certain behaviors. And that's where cross-selling comes in. And cross-selling automations are all about, if an investor is looking at funds they're not invested in, how do you then push them material relating to that fund? How do you push thought leadership relating to that fund or that interest? So that's deep automations. And whilst, you know, if you go to a generic marketing team, or, you know, go to the Harvard Business School, or any kind of Wharton Business School around marketing, they will, and, you know, any big tool like Pardot, Marketo, or geez, you know, all these big automation tools that are out there, they'll all talk about deep automation, but without all the hard work that has to go on before. So that's why, again, these products tend to oversell, under-deliver, because they haven't really, you know, built out all the kind of building blocks that need to go in place before these automations are successful, which is CRM, content, multiple touch points, integrations, and then automations. And that's how this all comes together. So we've got a question that's come in. Let me just quickly take this. Is the email only mildly annoying? Well, it's one of those things where that's why you have unsubscribe. And, you know, it's like that song by Chicago, if you leave me now, you'll be taking the best part of you with me. If they're going to go, they're going to go. And if they're not, they're not. And if the automation is built up significantly enough, then, you know, if they go, you know, that's kind of collateral damage that you have to live with. The balance to that collateral damage is that to be front of mind for people who don't know you, and people who have not unsubscribed from you, you need 7 to 11 touches. So, and hitting people at the right time kind of fits into what I'm kind of talking about today, Chris. So there is a balance, there's a compromise, there's no magic bullet, and there's no science to this. But what it is, it's having the discipline to look at the integrations, look at the analytics, look at the automations, and see what that pulls out. So now that I've done the easy stuff, now is the hard stuff and things to consider. And, you know, what I spoke about the integrations and about the automations, it's about pulling systems together, it's pulling the technology together and putting the people together. And is there a chance that one person can do this? I don't know the answer to that. Can a team do this? Definitely. How big does that team need to be? It's actually a function of the number of funds and the number of the amount of AUM you want to raise. And a general metric that is talked about is, for the amount of AUM you want to raise, 10% needs to be spent on systems, people, and technology. And some people would go as far as saying technology is 10%. But that tied in with the whole approach to looking at analytics, the whole Kanban approach or Kaizen approach to doing marketing does actually work. The danger is that you hire incorrectly. And I've literally today on LinkedIn put a post on how you have to recruit cleverly for marketing, because marketing is not just colors and PDFs. It's about understanding systems, quality, continuous improvement, looking at analytics is almost an engineering discipline. And most marketeers are brought up with the creative mindset. So pulling those two together is really hard. And the more tools you have that kind of bring that together, where the heavy lifting's done, the better. So that's something you know, worth considering. The other thing worth considering is, you know, when you're creating content, how do you distribute it? Because if you're not distributing content that's feeding back into your website, then the challenge is that you can't really build many automations, you can't build integrations, and then ultimately, you know, the efficiency, that added marketing alpha that you hope to generate and automate won't tend to work. So, so that's content distribution, something to consider. The other thing is the ability to have all this data in one place. And this is a real-time dashboard that's available in our product, where you can actually see, you know, your marketing campaigns, how they're trending in real time, how your investment is coming in real time as well. You've got the ability to see what kind of funds, you know, are people is resonating. And in this example, obviously it's going to be ESG. What's the global reach of your marketing as well? Again, you know, people find that incredibly useful, not only to kind of target in their marketing what's working, but actually building efficiencies to say, well, this geography isn't working, should we be targeting that? You know, from our fund analysis, you know, it looks like, you know, the growth fund isn't doing well, but we'd expect it to. And it's kind of the real-time diagnostics of your marketing campaign, as opposed to, you know, waiting for, you know, 6 months to pass and just using AUM in as a gauge for how successful your marketing is. So, you know, what we're trying to do is not change the marketer's role, but actually making the process more efficient. And I have this quote, and I know it's a fact, that the more integrations you build, the more content you create, the more channels you distribute, every channel adds 15% inefficiency. So in your reporting. So if you've got 5 channels, that's immediately 70-odd% inefficiency. You might as well just give up, because everything is late, everything's out of date, and you can't do your job. So what we're trying to do with what we're doing is kind of bringing that all together. So another question's come in. How would you integrate? How long would it? It's pretty simple. It's basically, it runs an API. We've got a connector for that, and we can connect into that. So, but, and again, it depends what information you want to pull in from Cvent as well. So yeah, so that is kind of the real-time reporting of our product. And ultimately, like I said, it's the ability to feed all that marketing activity, all that marketing spend into a dashboard for your sales team, so that they can be able to see who are the people they should be reaching out to. You know, who are the people that are actively engaged, like in low-hanging fruit? Where are their cross-selling opportunities? Where for the IR team is the redemption risk? And where for marketing is the marketing alpha? When I mean marketing alpha, we define that as people who have not read anything, whether it's fact sheets, investor portals, you know, social media for the last 6 months, but in the last month are suddenly reading stuff. Just making that sales process more efficient. And, you know, again, the question becomes, you know, to raise assets, do you need another salesperson, or do you need to make your sales team more efficient? And that is, you know, and, you know, traditionally when I started out, you know, 20 years ago, well, 17, it was, I'll get another sales guy. But now it's like, well, how can I be more efficient? So, you know, 20% more efficiency, what a sales guy is paid, you know, you, as they say in America, you do the math. And then again, you can just drill down into this data and actually see what people are doing. So other things to consider is having the ability to see how your funds are performing across multiple marketing channels. So, you know, the ability to see that is worth considering. It's also worth considering, you know, how many new prospects have been generated from your marketing, how many new opportunities have been created, and the ability to drill down into who they are, and then distributing that to your sales team and tracking that month on month. The other thing to look at is themes. So thematic analysis is to say, you know, what themes are working across our links, our documents, our emails, our web, and our campaigns. And having this again, all in real time, as opposed to shipping it out to an agency or getting an intern to do it without a more strategic view and a real-time tweaking view is just so much more powerful. The more integrations and the more automations and the more digital touch points you have is worth looking at, and having that internal lens on your marketing. So that's that. So yeah, so we're kind of at the end of the webinar. It's taken exactly 35 minutes. So well done, Paul. If you guys are interested, I'm going to, a replay goes out of this. And there's more, you're more than welcome to tap me up for and just spending an hour talking about what you guys are doing. I've written a book about the subject that's available on Amazon. But if you ask me nicely, I can get someone to send you a copy. So yeah, happy to take some questions now, if you want to ask, or I can depart for my Thursday and let you get on with your day. Okay, I've got a questions come in. Somebody raised their hand. Torsten, are you trying to come on? Torsten, was that you? Torsten, you can say something if you want to.
Hello, Paul. Thank you for your. Is your system right for emerging market, for emerging managers in the space with no name?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the way the product started is with boutique managers and emerging managers. And, we did some analysis to say what AUM get the most benefit from our product.
Okay.
And the benefit are emerging managers, boutique managers, who are 10 to 500 billion. Because it seems like they are the guys who are probably, the emerging markets are looking for new, and the bigger managers are looking for newer.
Okay.
So the answer to that is yes, Torsten.
Thank you.
Super, no problem. Ewan, great presentation, Q&A. No, my pleasure, Ewan. Sorry. That's super. Okay. Seems like we have no more questions. So thank you all very much for joining. We've got one more question. Here we go. Oh, useful. You're only saying nice things, guys. Enough. Okay. Well, listen, thank you all for joining. The replay will go out, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future if you want to have a chat. Okay. Bye-bye for now, everybody.